Okay, so now it is still December 19th of 2022. Here's the thing. You can't be afraid of pots. Nope. So what we're going to do is we're going to make turkey soup, basically, and we're going to can it. And then as we do that, we're also going to can a couple of jars of just straight up turkey with turkey broth. So I'm going to take this turkey. How much is it? How much is this turkey? Does it say? It doesn't say. It just gives you the weight. So we'll put it at what, 25 bucks? We'll just say. Okay, we'll round it off at 25 bucks. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to go to the kitchen sink and do this, okay? Start cutting off the fat, because we're going to render the fat and we're going to freeze it like we've done before. And the cracklings, we're going to freeze it and we're going to incorporate it into meals. That's the first thing. Because you don't want a lot of fat in this, because you're going to be canning it. And you don't want to lose $5. $5. Okay? So between $5, I saved myself $10 and got myself 4 meals. Okay? So you get the gist of why we're doing this. And it's delicious. Great for potatoes. Okay? Chicken fat, turkey fat. Very good. Same thing with beef fat. Okay. So I'm going to cut it in half, defat it, and start rendering it somewhere else. Put it in the fridge, whatever. I'll probably just do it on the stove, on a smaller burner. And then I'm going to freeze that, right? Cut this in half. Half goes in here, half goes in there. This will be my stock pot. This will be my soup pot. Because I want more soup canned in quart-sized jars than I want turkey. Because I got lots of turkey, but I'll probably end up canning 2 or 3 or 4 jars of turkey, quote unquote, because you don't put a lot of turkey in with your turkey soup, because you have your vegetables, your potatoes, your celery, your onion, your 1 or 2 noodles, okay? Right? And then whatever's left over in terms of turkey will be canned with the broth. And then if there's any broth left, then we can the broth, and we'll do it at 25 minutes instead of 20. Okay? And even then, at 25 minutes, you still have to bring it to a boil, turn it down, maintain a boil on it, a low boil, with a lid, just for another 10 minutes before you consume it. I don't care what it is. Now, people do open their jars and eat right from the jar, and statistically, I think it's like 2% of the whole population of the United States of America that come into contact with botulism through canning by not taking that safety step, because they're eating straight up out of the jar. Okay, and it doesn't matter if you canned it today and open it up next week, it could have botulism, so you'd have to treat it the same. Or whether you canned it today or opened it up in 7 years from now, you would still have to treat it the same. So there's that margin, okay? That's your ease. That's your leeway, right? So if you make a little mistake and you do 20 minutes instead of 25, I wouldn't beat yourself up over it. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay? All right, so now, well, we know what I'm going to be doing, and then I'll come back halfway through whatever I'm doing. Today is, I think, going to be kind of an eat while. It's never an easy day for me, people. This stuff is just going to be cooking. I'm not going to be able to can anything until tomorrow or the next day, because sometimes it has to cross over. You put it in the fridge, you're degreasing, or you get tired, or an emergency happens, or whatever it is, right? It took me a few days to do the beef, right? It's going to take at least 24 hours to get the soup, and then maybe up to even another 48 hours to get the stock if you're going for that bone broth. And then, you know, you do have to rest or whatever. And, it, you know, as long as it's in the fridge and it's cold, that buys you an extra day or two for the initial canning part of it. This is just, the pots are just the beginning preps. And you just work yourself through it. My son, he took down some jars for me today. Didn't complain. So, not that he complains, people. It's just, you know, he says, Mom, I said, look, I can't come down and do anything right now because I got more jars coming. I have to wait for my delivery. I don't want to be downstairs doing something and, you know, another package ends up on my porch and get stolen because I was downstairs and didn't hear the knock, right? Because I'm specifically asking for these deliveries to knock and ring the doorbell. Because I can't afford to be losing my orders, even though I'm getting refunded for them, because, you know, I depend on these utilities, right? I need these jars and stuff like this. I'm going to get this over with. I washed my buckets yesterday, so after this is cooking and everything, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull out some buckets and I'm going to start looking around, and the wheats that I have in jars, I'm going to empty into my buckets. I'm going to start labeling my buckets or whatever it is, figuring out where I'm going to put my buckets. Thinking maybe I'll do a couple of loads of laundry, because you have to remember my washing machine's right there, right? So, you know, just whatever. Have a bath. That would be nice, right? I've got to finish up with the mulberries because, you know, I'm dehydrating these ones whole. So it'll be whole little crunchy bursts of flavor, right? And that's why I needed my jars, but they got stolen. So I have to put them in a plastic bag, and then I'm going to start the dehydrator over again with probably dates or something like that, which require cutting. But, you know, I got the golden berries. I'll do the golden berries. Because I got still 16 pounds of golden berries. As long as it's just, you keep going, right? Because the golden berries, they're very high sugar content. So they take a long time, like dates and raisins, to dehydrate. You're talking days on 125 or lower, right? And so yeah, I'm going to keep busy all day on this, right? And through my travels, as I turn on and off the camera, you know, we'll talk just, you know, about this issue with companies being, I don't know, like I'm not looking forward to having to scramble around looking for another alternative website to start uploading my videos regularly as backup to YouTube's antics. Seriously. Yeah. Right? And I know at the rate that I'm going, it's just a matter of time before my website gets taken down because of all the shenanigans that I've had to face over the years with poverty pimping and that manufactured poverty agenda. Okay? No. Right? So I don't know what the solution is for Papa BitChute in order to regain his respect in society under the watchful eyes of crooks and criminals and gangsters and wannabe humans, but just don't know quite how to do it because it's just not in their DNA, you know? So I'll be back.
They are fighting.
Okay, so this has been cooking now for a while. Alright? It's like 12 o'clock in the morning. Alright? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out, debone it, and
every single day.
Put some in the fridge after it cools, and probably some of the stock in the fridge after it cools, and continue cooking the bones. So hold on. Okay, so I deboned it, put the bones back in there. I'm gonna just cook it throughout the night, and then tomorrow I'm gonna make soup. Right? obviously,
Take care.
a little bit of this.
Like,
Well,
something I learned.
see, that's the thing, though. I need the broth. I need the broth in order to can
And
this.
basically, what it is
So,
is
before I make the soup,
in-
I
at the
have
end of
to...
November of
It was a small bird, right? I have to can this, which might take... Well, it won't take that
they
much,
call
but
it T-Man.
whatever's left will be soup, I suppose. So, hold on.
But I was
Okay. Next day, 11 o'clock a.m., December 20th, 2022. So, this is really nice. I added nothing in it outside of a bit of salt and turkey. That's it. And it's been cooking up really, really good. But before I can use it, because I'm going to can it, I kind of have to degrease it, people. And the best way to degrease it is to completely cool it down, strain it, and put it in the fridge. And then take off the surface grease after everything's cold. And then get on with it. Okay, so we're just moving along here. I'm just doing the prep work, right? So when you make like soup, and you want it really, really, really tasty, right? I mean, if you're not canning it, you see this stuff that's floating on top? That's actually very flavorful. Okay, let me taste it. Let me see. Okay, so basically what that is the fat coming to the surface, right? Now you want a little bit in your soup. Like at the end of the day, when you're done, a little bit is good. Right, hold on. Okay, so you have a couple of choices here. What I like to do, obviously, is degrease, right? To some degree, okay? Unless you're, like, with the amount that was there on top of the surface, if you were, like, bowling up for other, like, making servings, right? And moving it around and mixing it in with the broth and then putting it into the bowl and then, right, it gets dispersed, right? But in a situation like this, you know, the problem is it crawls, right? But I put mine in really cold places, so that helps, right? I wanted to mention, if you can't unscrew it before you go wash it, you just run it under lukewarm water and go like this gently. It will come off, okay? Because sometimes they get sticky underneath, right? So don't, because you might pop the seal. Just run it under cool water, right? Lukewarm, cool water for a bit, up like on the sides and stuff. And it will come off. Just go very gently, and you'll find it will come off. Okay, so, all right. So basically what we got here is the stock that's really good, but it has too much fat, right? Because turkey is fat, even though you take off a lot of it, right? Which I have a bowl full that I'm going to render and, you know, turn it into just probably a quarter cup turkey lard and then crackling, because it's a lot of turkey skin, right? Now, oh boy, it's gonna be one of those days. Now, after I degrease it, I'm gonna let this cool down, eh? And I'm gonna let the grease solidify before I start using it, because I'm gonna can what turkey I have first in jars, and I'll probably get, at least 4 quart-sized jars, right? And then after that, I'm gonna make the soup, and then from there, I'm going to can some of that soup, because it will probably be a fair amount, and that's the goal, right? I want to can soup. Now this here, when I do stuff like this, I'll cut them up into teeny weeny little pieces. And I'll put them back into the soup And depending on how much I make is depending on how much I put into the soup, right? Okay, all this other stuff, I don't know, maybe I'll just give it to the animals in with their cat food today. Now, there is a little bit of fat in the turkey that I pulled out from the bones and stuff, so I may just use that and then just take that and mix it in with the cat food. So hold on. Okay. 11:30 at night. I'm getting tired again. See? Anyway, I'm going to can just turkey tonight. And then tomorrow, whatever's left in broth, which is going to be a fair amount, because I have this. This was outside because it's a bunch of snow out there, so I'm going to skim it of the fat. And then fill up my jars. And then the broth will just go in the fridge till tomorrow. You can see. And then tomorrow I'll make turkey soup. And probably can 2 or 3 jars of that. And then we'll go on to the ham. So hold on. Okay, so it's a small turkey, right? So we got 4 jars, brown meat, white meat mixed up, okay? This is for the turkey soup and maybe a sandwich or something. We'll see. It depends how much I left. It looks like I'm going to have a fair amount of broth left over. Okay, I'm going to use this first. If this one's already warm, I might have to add a bit more to fill these up and get them in the pressure canner 90 minutes, right? And then tomorrow I'll work on the actual soup itself, and I'll probably can a few jars of that as well. So hold on. Okay. And then tomorrow we're going to make soup, and then we'll see what we get. Those dates that were in this jar are now all cut up, and tomorrow we'll go in the dehydrator to make date sugar. So hold on. Okay, so can't be afraid of those pots. There's a button. Well, it's not really quite a button, but it is. So we're gonna make turkey soup. Obviously, I'm not gonna leave that in there, okay? That was just a joke. Hold on. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is take this off, right? Now there is going to be a bit of fat in it from the turkey itself because I have a little bit, but that's going to just be in little bits and pieces. So I didn't overboil the turkey because I knew I was going to, like if I would have cooked the turkey longer in with the broth, this would be more gelatin, but this broth is like really good. Like really, really good. So it's going to be a good start for this. But because we're going to be canning some of this, we don't want this, right? As much as possible, that is. So hold on. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say here is, some people say you can't can celery, but you can. You can can it in soup. I've already done it, people, and it's so delicious. Okay, so I think maybe they're talking about canning it in a jar, just all by itself. Maybe not. I don't know why you'd even want to do that, but I guess for some people it makes sense. But for me, I like it in soup. It's just delicious. So I'm going to be putting, obviously, a fair amount of carrots, a fair amount of celery. I'll use that amount of onion. I'll put in some cloves of garlic. I've got those frozen vegetables, so maybe I'll use a bit of those. I'm going to use a larger noodle. I just have to find it. Okay, hopefully I'll be able to find what I'm looking for. And then, yeah, and then maybe I think I've got some fresh dill, kind of fresh dill, in my fridge, so I'll do that. And I'll do some fennel seeds, some dill seeds, those kind of things. So hold on. Okay, so I still got a long way to go because I have that other turkey, my turkey, that I have to can, and my cod, my black cod. Right? Anyway, I told Andre I'm not done yet. Plus, after I get this going, now I've been up since 1 this morning and it's already 2 o'clock. So I've been up since, well, 13 hours now, right? And this is where I start to burn out. But I'm going to get this cooking and then on a slow simmer, right? I told Andre I might have to take a little rest. And if I fall asleep, he needs to wake me up. Because, you know, I just get up and then I just start canning. That's what happened with this turkey. I was canning at 3 o'clock in the morning. And for whatever reason, I woke up at 1 because I laid down and fell asleep for a couple, 2, 3, 4 hours or whatever it was. Anyway, this is where it's delicious in soup. Okay, maybe even a little bigger. About an inch. A little over an inch for celery. And then your carrots are about an inch, so hold on. Okay, so this is where my tomato plants are growing. This is my parsley. So I'm going to cut that up and put that in there. This is a sweet potato. I would prefer, honestly, parsnip. Oh, it's so good. But I don't have parsnip. So I will probably end up putting this in the pot, but I'm not going to put it in just yet because I don't want to overcook it, right? This stuff is going to stew for a while, eh? So what I did is I used some of that frozen corn, frozen peas that was given to me, right? You can see, okay? That onion, just that one. I put almost a whole bag of carrots, small bag of carrots, whatever, how many pounds, I don't know. Obviously, you can see the celery in there, right? If you're going to put potato, seriously, you kind of want to put a red potato because one, less starch, and they're the best canning potato. I'm just saying. That's why I'm choosing to probably use the sweet potato. So hold on a minute. And I'm going to open this thing up. I never use these things. That's why I have it. I don't even know where it came from. Probably from Pastor Granny. Honest to God. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to taste it first. Right? I mean, it should be fine. It's never been opened. Right? And then I'm going to, because I've done this before. Right? So I'm going to put it in there. And then I don't have a lot of quote unquote fresh vegetables. Right? That can go in a turkey soup. But that's okay. Right? By the time I put in the sweet potato and some turkey and a few noodles, it's going to be okay. Hold on. That's the mildest chicken broth I've ever tasted, but it was fine. So I just put it in there. Just want to move on with it, right? You know what I'm saying? And I'm adding the rest of this celery in here too, because celery gives it a really good taste. And when you're opening up the jar and you're eating your soup, oh man, you don't know. It is so good. So good. But you kind of want them like that, okay? So that when you bite into them, after you heat up your jar and everything, oh boy, they're so good. Hold on. Okay, so there's the ham that they gave me. Now, it's been outside and it's been like mounds and mounds and mounds of snow out there, so it was frozen. So it's still kind of frozen. Now, what I'm going to do with the ham is, when I do it, I'm going to keep it really, really simple. And I want to just keep the ham flavor as is. So this time, when I'm ready, I'm not doing it today because it's like going on 4 o'clock and I've been up since 1 this morning, okay? And I'm still busy, okay? I'm just been like a little busy bee in this kitchen. I got my 3 cases of 2 jars times 3. So I've got some extra jars. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into the boxes of the raisins and the boxes of the dates. And I'm just going to keep it simple on myself right now. These are my old dates from way back in the day that were in a jar underneath there with those raisins. I am going to dehydrate these. I've already cut them up. I cut them up when I was doing this in the wee hours of the morning after I woke up from a nap. Like, this is pathetic. When I go see this eye doctor, I'm going to show him how I do these drops. I'm like all over the map, like, you know. So now I'm just going to bring this up to a boil. And then I'm going to turn it down. I'm going to put the lid on it for a while. And I'm just going to let it just simmer, right? I didn't put too many spices in there. I wanted fennel seeds, but honest to God, people, I opened up my spice thing in there and I can't see, right? I can see, but I can't see. It's like I'm in a deep fog. So, you know, it's like, It just all starts to look the same. So I asked my son when he came up and wanted some ginger, powdered ginger, if he'd help me go through it one day. Just whatever. So anyway, you can see I've got my jars here. I should actually cover them up with a cloth. Well, this is only for a few minutes. And no, I don't want steam in them. Anyway. Hold on. So yeah, the beef, we rounded it off, what, to $90, right? Including jars, right? And then the turkey was $25. I haven't, that's what I'm assuming, okay? Because, you know, average price, right? I haven't included the jars yet, okay? So that's $115. And then this one here, it looks like it's $22. Where did I see that? Down here. So $115, $137 just in meat product alone, okay? Right? You don't get much, right? 3 pieces of meat. Well, that's not true because I got the extra hamburger and stuff, right? After you're canning, make sure you double, just every now and then come along and just check your jars, because if they're going to pop, chances are they're going to pop within the first few days of canning them, if not within the first 24 hours. They all seem to be good, right? Obviously, this will get nice and cold and really hard when I take them downstairs. That will be after I'm all said and done. Oh yeah, did I say I was just going to can this one in straight up water? So what's going to happen is, I'm not going to do it today because I kind of wanted it to, just to get it over with, right? Honestly, while that thing is cooking, because that thing can cook all night on a low, right? If I wanted to do that. Although, I think I'll probably just cook it for another 2, 3, 4 more hours. And then maybe, like I said, have a nap, because that's the way it goes. And then get up, and that's when I just start canning, right? And by that time, you see I'm not done yet, because I've got my mulberries that I'm going, they're whole, these ones. So I'm going to be filling up some jars with mulberries, and then I'm going to put this on the dehydrator tray, which is the old dates that I had. And I'm going to get into those golden berries that are still 16 pounds over there. So between that and the golden berries are going into the tray. And then whatever's left in terms of jars, getting into now those golden raisins and the new batch of dates, right? And I've only washed 4 jars. But I have 5 because I emptied out the jar with the old dates in it, right? So I got 5 jars. So I'd like to get them done before I even lay down for even a rest. But by that time, who knows what time it will be. It's already 4 o'clock. It'll be 7 o'clock. Do you see how Tom just clicks for me? All right, and you know, but this is where you can't burn out. All right, you don't get that jet lag, or what is that? You know, yeah, you don't want to lose the steam. Okay, I'm starting to get tired. It's almost 7 o'clock p.m. and I've been up since 1 a.m. And I've been pretty much on my feet in here all day. Do it to myself. I just want to get this crap done. So I'm trying not to get burnt out here. Although I've been burnt out for a long time. I really like these buckets. These are nice. These buckets are nice. Oh. Oops. Yeah, see? I did these ones whole. Right? Keep these upstairs. Well, at least I thought I liked these buckets. What's the matter? There we go. Oh, I'm just tired, that's all it is. Okay, so in a situation like this, I would boil your noodle. I like the larger noodles because it's just, I like it better, okay? Right? So kind of boil your noodle first, right? So all this, you know, is in the water, and you wash it away, and you just get a nice clean noodle. Now, if you don't know, noodles spaghetti, any kind of stuff like that. It's a food that can last very, very, very long time. Your biggest enemy is bugs, right? So, you know, if you got it in a container where bugs can't get in, you're good to go, okay? Basically, right? And obviously keep it out of a place where it's really moist, where, you know, the moisture can seep in through your container, but other than that, it will last forever, right? Hold on. Okay, so here we go. I didn't realize that was like that. Sorry about that. Anyway. So all it's going to need is a salt taste. Now, I haven't put the noodles in here. Normally I do, but right now I'm just putting a few at the bottom of each one to start. Right. I just want to get this over with. It's 20 after 8. So hold on. Okay, I would have preferred to have oh, what is it called? Sweet. No. Parsnips. But you can put Brussels sprouts, whatever, right? I just find that these mixed vegetables, but you can mix vegetables, right? You can get, well, not mix, but you can corn, you can peas. So, right, just moving things around a little bit, right? You can see that.
70% of the territory of Yugoslavia was left without electricity. This shows that we have a finger on the button, and we can turn on and off the power where we need it and where we want it. NATO in 2022. Russia must stop attacking Ukraine's energy infrastructure because it is inhumane.
I wish I could see better.
German intelligence sources report that the post-war...
So it's okay. It's not one of my better soups, but it's fine. So what do you think of it?
It's really good.
Yeah?
It's tasty.
Yeah?
I like it.
You like it?
Yes.
Cool.
You did a good job.
Okay, so now it is, geez, I think it's Christmas Eve. Yeah, it's December 24th. What time? Oh my God. 6:43 in the morning. Okay, so 6:45 on Christmas Eve. And I've been up since, oh, I don't know. Yesterday I did a 21-hour day. No, not yesterday. Day before, I was in here for 21 hours, okay? Right? And then yesterday, I just kind of just laid on the couch pretty much all day. I didn't really sleep until the evening, and then of course I got up at like 1, 2 in the morning. But whatever, you know, I rested, so I'm back at it. That's what I'm trying to say. And I know you've never really seen anyone can in the manner that I do. But next it will be ham, because I got that ham in the fridge. But that will be to the next video, okay? Because I'm going to end this video very soon. Right, because I've been doing this for a while now. And we're pretty much done. We're done with the hamburger, and we're done with the turkey. Okay? And I still have my one turkey in the freezer of my own that I still need to do. But I'll do that in about 3-4 weeks from now, because I'm going to do the fish first. So it's going to go ham, and then it's going to go the black cod with the, I think it's mackerel or halibut, one or the other, and they're just fish ends, and you'll see what I'll do with that. So next will be, after the ham, I'm going to get into the fish, and then I'm going to do the turkey again, because honestly, people, I got 7 jars of turkey soup, but it's not what I wanted in terms of, I have a jar that I made a long time ago. I'm looking for it to show you as a comparison in terms of how long this stuff can sit in a jar. And usually the way it tastes when you put it in is the way it tastes when you take it out. Okay? In other words, what I did with this, you've seen, right? But I'm not completely 100% happy with the end result because it wasn't what I was looking for. Okay? Three things that I would change. If you like the broth, the way the broth is, don't add anything into it unless you need it to fill up your jars. Outside of that, if you're making a soup, when you get your broth to the way it is, in other words, I cooked up the turkey, got my broth, I should have just used that broth and nothing else. Okay? Because as soon as I put in that, that container with the broth, and I don't think it would have mattered with the brand. Okay? So it has nothing to do with the brand, although that didn't taste very brothy when I tasted it. Besides that point, what it did though is it did dilute my original broth, which right there automatically changes the taste. The second thing is I ended up using frozen vegetables because I didn't have the selection that I wanted. I was thinking to put in sweet potato, but because I wasn't wanting to overcook it and have it deteriorate in the pot, because I wasn't quite sure how long it would be on the stove for before I got around to canning it, because 21 hours later I'm getting tired, right? You know what I'm saying? And that was like after I canned. Okay, so anyway, besides that point, I would have preferred parsnips. So what I'm trying to say is, the next time I do this, which will be within the month because I've got my other turkey to do that I want to do, right? I'm going to make that deep, rich broth. I'm not going to dilute it. And instead of using frozen vegetables, I'm going to make an effort to make sure I have fresh vegetables in the house ready to go before I start this canning process. And I know parsnips is one of them, because if you do parsnips, you can cut them quite, how parsnips comes in different sizes. They can come as big as almost 2 inches. Well, as long as you cut them like that, maybe, a half an inch thick or something, they go through nicely. But what they do is they build in structure within your jar so that heat can travel, okay? And they're really, really, really tasty. And of course, fresh beans would be another option, but I'm not using frozen vegetables anymore for this situation, unless of course I had no choice. And in that case, instead of stewing my soup on the stove for any length of time, outside of the broth, I'd throw the vegetables in, cook them up, and then I would almost immediately can them within an hour or two of my soup being cooked, versus hours later and being overboiled, because what I found is it kind of, I don't know, it just changed the texture of the vegetables. You can see they're in there. I can't see that well, but I can tell that's corn. Right? I'm sure the peas are holding their shape, but because they were frozen, I don't know. It's just better to try and be prepared in advance and use your favorite vegetables. So if you want, like Brussels sprouts, for example, would be good in this, with your parsnip, your carrots, and your celery, and your onion, and your parsley. Just your basics, right? Because what you want to do is keep the flavor of the stock. Whereas I kind of changed it into something else. So basically, and then when it came to spices, eyesight for me kind of plays like, okay, for example, like I can't tell what's what in here. Right? Oh my God, as if I can even open the bloody thing. Okay? I can't see. It all looks the same. And so what I'm trying to say is, now I purposely put in mustard seeds. I don't normally put in mustard seeds in any kind of soup, but for whatever reason, I thought, to heck with it. I'm going to throw in a couple of teaspoons of mustard seeds. Grabbed a few more. I did dill seed. I did dill weed. I got my fresh parsley where my tomatoes, my babies are growing in the little grow room that I have there for vegetables. Parsley is one of them. What else did I put in there? I don't know, just a couple of miscellaneous. Long story short, I think and the pepper, the mustard seed, I don't know, it made it spicy. So, when I label it, I'm going to put spicy mustard seed turkey soup. So you get no surprises because it has an off bite to it because of the dilution of the broth itself with, I don't want to say inferior vegetables, but definitely vegetables that didn't enhance the flavor, and then to throw in a bitter seed that's hot yet. I mean, Andre liked it, I liked it, but you got to be in the kind of a mood for it, and you got to, you know, it's not that. I mean, well, yeah, it is. I guess it depends on, like with bread, with butter, or a biscuit or something, it would be very good. Myself, personally, I needed more salt, but then I always need more salt and pepper, right? But by the time you get to the, you know how you get to the bottom of the bowl, it's starting to like get hot, 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 because all those spices come to the bottom of the bowl. Well, mustard seed is one of them. So the next time I do this, I'm not adding mustard seed. No. I'm not adding any extra broth unless, of course, I need it because of stuff like this. But if I'm looking for a straight up soup and I like my broth, no, I'm not doing that. And I'm definitely going to go out of my way to have parsnips, a few Brussels sprouts, of course, your carrots, right? Your beans, fresh beans. You know, it doesn't have to be a lot, but you just want it speckled in versus, again, but if I had no choice, I'd still go with the root of the frozen vegetable, although I wouldn't overcook the soup like I did this time because I wasn't ready to can it because I have to go with my energy level, right? And because I'm having a problem with one of my burners, if I turn it too low, it's not hot enough. So I turn it up, I come back later, and the bloody thing is boiling under the lid. And I'm like, maybe I overboiled it a bit, so that deteriorated the vegetables a bit, right? And then throw in the mustard seed, right, with the pepper and everything. It's like, it's not what you're expecting. That's just what I'm trying to say, right? Like this beef broth tastes like beef broth because I didn't dilute it with store-bought beef broth. So there's a big difference. And I have turkey stock and I do have chicken stock. That's nothing more than butt stock, right? So, okay. So now I can't remember in terms of dollar amount right now. After I'm done the ham, we'll do the dollar amount. I'm going to start putting these into boxes, labeling everything, getting it ready for my son to take down for me. But when that happens, I kind of have to be downstairs and almost have to try and find a place for these things ASAP, to which is going to be quite difficult to do. But, you know, because they can't stay here for any length of time. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get into these things, and this is how I'm going to finish this video. Okay, because I said that when I open up the boxes of these raisins, they're called golden raisins, and they're from California. I don't remember how many pounds. I think 25 pounds or something like that. And a box of dates. Now, I would suspect that one box of raisins will pretty much take 3 jars. So 2 for sure, which will be put off into long-term storage, but not for long-term storage, because I plan on making raisin pie and whatnot with these, okay? I want to use them regularly. So 1 jar upstairs for sure. We'll see what we get. So and we're going to look at the dates too. So hold on. Okay, so this is a brand I've never bought before. I'm pretty sure it's 25 pounds. Might even say it on the box. I don't know. I don't see anything here. It'd probably be on that. No, that's the outside of the box. Anyway, Okay, so what we got here is dates. I'm pretty sure it's 25 pounds. Okay? I think they're organic. And they're nice and chewy, and they're fresh. Now, I'm going to start cooking more with dates. Dates and oats, you know. The classic, right? Date squares and that kind of thing. My other dates that I had in the jar, they're in the dehydrator. I'm making more date sugar. So what we're doing here is we're going to fill up at least 2 jars as is, because they'll store for a long time. And the thing about dates and that kind of thing is they're imported, right? And through that importation, they get sprayed with or something, with some sort of antifungal, just something as a preservative to protect the food long term. Okay? So that's kind of, even though they're organic, I'm pretty sure these have that on there because they come from a different country. Okay? Per se. Like I don't know. I'd have to double check. If you go on there and you look up dates, they give you a little description and they usually tell you, okay? I know the raisins that I got from California don't have it, but the Sultane raisins do, because the Sultane raisins, I think, came from Africa. But the Sultane raisins, which will be in the next box, is only 1 pound compared to 25 pounds of golden raisins from California. What I'm trying to say is, right now, when I'm busy, I don't have time to be dehydrating dates outside of, after I fill up my 2 jars, if I have a little more left over, I'll throw them into the, what do you call it, dehydrator to top off with what I already got in there in terms of making date sugar. I do plan on ordering this again, but that won't be for another month or 2 or 3. Okay? Because, you know, just because of what's going on in the economy and throughout the world. So hold on. Okay, so basically it looks like you can get 3 gallons out of a box, okay? But this one here, I'm going to dehydrate. And because they're fresh and moist, it's going to take a little longer. But if you dehydrate, you grind it up, kind of make yourself a date sugar, you know, you get more in a jar. It takes up less space, okay, let's face it. Also, the ones that I have in the dehydrator are older and have been sitting in a jar and, you know, drying, because there's pockets of air in there. So, if this sits here for 5 years in the jar, unopened, in a cool, dark place, the worst that's going to happen is the food is just going to shrink inside and dry up, as you know, because there's air in there. Now, the thing is, do not, right? Remember, just like raisins, do not put an oxygen absorber in this, because if you do that and you take away the oxygen, there is the potential to start breeding botulism. Okay, it's a different kind of botulism, people. It's not the kind that lives in your yard in the dirt. Okay, there's several different kinds. The botulism that we're trying to prevent by not putting an oxygen absorber into it is the kind that lives in a canning jar. Okay, I don't know how many jars are here, but there is the potential for each and every jar to have botulism in it. That's just a fact. That's why when it's a low acid food, no matter what it is, you put it in a pot, you bring it to a boil, you turn it down, put a lid on it, keep it on that low boil, and do that for a good old 10 minutes, and you remove the botulism from your product, assuming that it's even there. Now, there are people that don't do that. They can their food, chickpeas, whatever, open up their jar, and just take their chickpeas and strain it and throw it in the salad and eat it. No. Technically, you should bring it to a boil, right? Because otherwise you're taking a chance. This is what I'm trying to say. People take chances all the time. chances of getting botulism from home canned chickpeas is probably nil to none, but there's that 1 or 2% probability that it could happen. And if you don't boil your food, and you know, it only needs like 3 minutes or whatever it is at a certain, you know, to kill it off, right? And once it's done, it's done. Right? Because it's already in the environment all over, everywhere you go. It's just a different kind that's a little more potentially dangerous, right? So this, I'm just explaining to you, you can get botulism in this if you take out the oxygen, just like you can get botulism in this once you take out the oxygen and you seal your jar, okay? There is no difference between the two. Outside of this, you have to boil, all right? And to kill off anything that might be there. Whereas this, the worst that's going to happen over a period of time, if it's going to happen, is you're going to get pockets of mold either on the outside growing, to which you'll clearly see, and because it travels, we know not to eat it, chuck it, right? Or it could be very well in the inside of the product, right? Depends. But again, stuff like this comes from different countries that spray on something just to prevent that specifically, right? So the chances of it going moldy are slim, right? So now, apparently you can vacuum seal something like this because you're not taking out the oxygen, you're just taking out the air, but it's kind of hard to vacuum seal a plastic lid to a 1-gallon jar, never mind a metal lid. I prefer metal lids. The only reason I have plastic at this point is because these jars were coming in at a discount rate and they had a little muslin cloth in there and a little scrub brush and a sponge and some little doily thing, right, with an elastic band. So you got a little more value for your money, plus the jars were discounted because I guess they have a surplus. Now, I did order some metal lids. Whether they fit these jars or not remains to be seen, because if they do, I'm going to change them. The one that I have is just an old school from an old school jar, to which I would think it is this one. Yeah. So these I'm going to dehydrate. And I'm going to mix them in with my other dates that are older. And then that will be my date sugar, right? I'm warning you now, if you decide to dehydrate dates, it takes a long, long, long time. But don't despair. Sooner or later, they crunch up and you can grind it up to whatever consistency you want. And chances are you can get your jar down to at least 3/4 of the size of what you've got here after it's all said and done, right? And when you're limited on space, for whatever reason, it makes a difference. So I want to take a boo at these raisins, and then I'm going to upload this video, so hold on. Okay, so first of all, basically an oxygen absorber that removes the oxygen from a jar outside of canning, okay, is used mainly, people, is to kill off any larvae that might be in your beans or your rice or your wheat kernels, something that's dry, right? Sometimes, you know, it just takes that one moth before you have a whole party of moths. So if this has a moth in it, because in transport of putting it into the jar and doing whatever, and a little moth flew in, or maybe there was a moth, just all it takes is one. You close the lid and you come back 4 years later, you'll find that half your food will be eaten and the rest of it will be a moth hotel, with the moths breeding and just doing what moths do and living happily ever after until they consume all the food, and then eventually they starve. Otherwise, they'll live there forever and they will multiply because there's oxygen in the air. However, because this is moist, like this is moist, if you take away the oxygen like you do it here, you have the potential to create a botulism that is very dangerous and can kill you. Okay? if this is full of chickpeas, dry corn, dry beans, dry peas, whatever it is that's dry, oatmeal, whole oats, whatever, okay? You put an oxygen absorber in there. You're only doing it to prevent any larva or a moth from multiplying. That's the purpose of an oxygen absorber. Okay, so it's not something that's necessary, because unless of course you know that there's high potential of larva being in the product, and when it came into your house and it was delivered to you, then yeah, I could see maybe doing it that way. But outside, most of these, I seriously, you just don't come into that many problems. And if you do, you contain it in the jar or whatever container you put it in, okay? All right? You don't need to freeze it in your freezer, none of that crap, to kill off larvae, right? In terms of depending on what it is. Okay, now you can vacuum seal chickpeas and all those other things because they're more than 10%. Like anything 10% of moisture, you don't use an oxygen absorber. So if it's 90%, 95%, 98%, yeah, okay, dry, then for sure you can use an oxygen absorber. But that's with your beans, your lentils, your corns, you know, that kind of stuff. Okay, we know that. So I just trying to clarify that the only reason you would use an oxygen absorber would be mainly is to kill off pests. But in a situation like this, because it's more than 10% moist, you don't do that because you're bringing it into this type of environment, which can breed botulism, which is completely different than the kind that grows in your garden, in the dirt. Okay? All right. Now, I got it backwards. This is Sultane raisins from Turkey. It came from Turkey. Okay? Right? And here we got, in terms of ingredients, we've got the Sultane raisins with just straight up vegetable oil. Okay. And then here, I think these are the ones that came from California. They're called golden raisins. And remember I told you they spray it with a certain kind of chemical to help preserve it. And I'm pretty sure this is from California because down here you can see CA, well, I don't know. Either or. I only got, because these ones were more expensive and they had that in there. So I only thought I'd try them. So this I'm just going to put in a quart-sized jar. And I'm just going to keep those out just to see if I want to do a big order. Right? And then these ones are the ones that I'm going to be using to be making pie with and whatnot. And they're very moist. And I'm not dehydrating these at this point. I'm just going to jar them up. This jar, when I was packing it, I didn't pack it tight. So therefore, this one's going underneath my cupboard where Amari stuff is. Okay? And then I'm going to make another jar of these raisins that's going to go underneath the cupboard where Amari stuff is. And then whatever else, I got still 2 more jars to wash, which will fill up this. And then this jar I packed tighter to break up the pockets, the air pockets, to prevent mold from growing in between the jar, which I didn't do in this jar because I wasn't thinking about it. But that's okay because I'm going to use that jar regularly, right? In terms of making date squares and that kind of stuff. So the same principle. When you pack it in, because it's nice and tight in here, you want it nice and tight wherever you put it, in whatever container. In my situation, I'm using the glass jars because I just prefer that. These are the mulberries, whole, that I dehydrated, to which I'm going to put those ones underneath the cupboard where Amari stuff is. And I'll just sprinkle it into foods whenever like just whatever I'm making randomly. Whereas I still have a jar ground up. I'll have the jar ground up with the brown sugar, and I'll have just the jar, and I'll use like 1.9 liter, which are a little smaller, of ground up mulberry for Amari stuff. Where this will be like, if I make porridge or something, you know, I'll sprinkle it in for Andre or something. And I mean, of course, I can sprinkle it in for Amari as well, and then I'd have to grind it up anyway, because he can't eat oatmeal unless it's grounded up finely, otherwise he gags because he doesn't like the texture of it. So when you do stuff like this, what I'm trying to say is pack it in tight, whatever container you're using, for long-term storage. Okay? The longer the term storage is, then you're going to go into dehydrating. So I'm not dehydrating this at this point. So maybe when I label the jar, I'll put undehydrated, and then on the outside, depending on where I put it, I'll put undehydrated. And then when I order again, because I'm going to do it again, just not yet, I will dehydrate the next box, like I did with that 30 pounds of Thompson raisins or whatever it was that I bought when I first started doing raisins, and I dried them to a fine crisp. And then I put them into jars, and they're now downstairs into more long-term storage. Right? Okay? But if you know you're going to use them in the next year, 2 or 3, then you know what? I wouldn't worry about it too much, because the worst they're going to do is shrink and dry in the jar over a period of time. And it's like anything in life. You have to take risks. Okay? Remember that button? How many jars did I get of soup? 7. 2, 4, 6, 7. And this is the spicy mustard seed turkey soup, right? And we know that I'm going to be doing turkey in another 3 weeks or so from now. I don't know if I want to can ham today, because I'm already tired, because I've been up since like 2:30 this morning or something dumb like that. Right? So I'm just going to do some laundry, because I have to do laundry in my kitchen sink, because that's where my washing machine is. And then I hang dry and blah, 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 blah. And then I'm cleaning this and cleaning that. And so I'm just going to like label up my jars. I'm going to get them into boxes, get them ready for my son, right? You know, just get a handle on shit today. Get this put away, you know, figure out what I got to wash 2 more jars, finish up this, right? You know, I got stuff, I got the golden berries in the dehydrator with some dates, and move them around, do some laundry, that kind of stuff. And I'm probably going to order myself at least 4 more jars, being that my other 2 jars didn't come in the mail. Somebody stole them off my porch. But in light of where I'm at with things, I just want to be... So if I order 4 more, that gives me just whatever, because I still got shit around, right? And then I'm going to probably can the ham tomorrow. Should I? Can the ham tomorrow, which is just going to be ham with boiled water. And then what I'm going to do, since I have to go downstairs and get some more jars, there'll be these ones, although I like these ones when I'm doing meat. I don't know why, but I do. But use what you have, right? As long as they're new lids, you're good to go. I'm going to grab the fish. And I'm going to put the fish in my fridge so it can unthaw. So over the next couple, 2-3 days, I'm going to be canning fish. Right? To get that out of the way with. And then in the next couple of weeks or less, do that turkey. And I told you what to do. Unless you want it spicy. If you want it spicy, throw in some mustard seeds.